The blast tears through the fortress wall like paper, showering defenders with stone and shrapnel. Soldiers scramble through smoke and confusion as another explosion rips apart their barricade. They've never seen anything like this. The cannonballs aren't just punching holes anymore. They're detonating inside their walls, turning their own defenses into weapons against them. It's 1784, and one man's obsession with destruction is about to reshape every battlefield for the next 2 centuries. Henry Shrapnel is a 23-year-old British artillery officer with a dangerous hobby, blowing things up in his spare time. While other officers drink and gamble their pay away, he's in his quarters sketching designs for a weapon that doesn't exist yet. The problem consuming him is simple, but brutal. Traditional cannonballs are solid iron spheres that rely on direct hits. Miss by a meter, and you've accomplished nothing except making noise. Hitting a moving formation of soldiers requires either perfect aim or divine intervention, and battlefields rarely provide either. Shrapnel sees the waste everywhere. Artillery crews haul these massive guns across Europe, position them with mathematical precision, and fire shots that miss more often than they connect. Even when they hit, a single ball might take down 2 or 3 men before burying itself in mud. There has to be a better way to convert gunpowder into casualties. His solution is elegant and horrifying. What if the cannonball itself became a bomb? Not exploding on impact, but bursting mid-air above enemy formations, spraying dozens of smaller projectiles downward like a metal rainstorm. One shot could wound or kill dozens instead of 2. The concept isn't entirely new. Explosive shells have existed for decades, but they're unreliable, dangerous to the gunners, and nobody's figured out how to make them detonate at the right moment. Shrapnel attacks this problem with the intensity of someone possessed. He spends his own money on materials and experiments, testing fuses and timing mechanisms in secret. His fellow officers think he's wasting his time. The military establishment isn't exactly known for embracing innovation from junior officers, but Shrapnel doesn't care about their opinions. He cares about the mathematics of destruction. The breakthrough comes through obsessive trial and error. He designs a hollow iron sphere packed with musket balls and gunpowder. The key innovation is the fuse, a precisely measured tube of explosive material that burns at a predictable rate. Artillery crews can cut the fuse to different lengths depending on the distance to target. Light the fuse, fire the shell, and if everything works perfectly, it explodes above the enemy's heads, right when they think they're still out of range. His first successful test must have been terrifying to witness. The shell arcs through the sky, seemingly harmless, then suddenly tears itself apart in a cloud of smoke and lead. The musket balls spray outward and downward in a cone of death, each one capable of punching through a man. It's like turning one cannonball into 50 simultaneous shots, but convincing the British Army to adopt his invention takes 9 years of persistent demonstrations and political maneuvering. The military bureaucracy moves slower than continental drift, and revolutionary ideas from young officers are treated with suspicion. Shrapnel demonstrates his shells repeatedly, improves the design, and writes detailed reports that most generals probably never read. The Army finally accepts his invention in 1803, 20 years after he started experimenting. They call it spherical case shot initially, a bureaucratic name that strips away the horror of what it actually does. Later, soldiers will call it by its inventor's name, shrapnel. The word will become synonymous with flying metal fragments, eventually describing any deadly debris from explosions, not just his specific invention. The Napoleonic Wars provide the perfect testing ground. British artillery crews start using shrapnel shells against French formations, and the results exceed even shrapnel's projections. Entire cavalry charges disintegrate under airbursts they can't see coming. Infantry columns break apart as invisible death rains from above. The psychological effect is devastating. Soldiers can take cover from regular cannon fire, but shrapnel finds them anyway. At the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, British artillery fires thousands of shrapnel shells. Napoleon's forces are caught in overlapping kill zones, torn apart by explosions they can't predict or escape. The weapon doesn't win the battle alone, but it turns artillery from a blunt instrument into a precision killer. Shrapnel himself gets promoted to lieutenant general and receives a modest pension for his invention. Modest being the operative word. The British government pays him about £1,500 annually, a fraction of what his weapon is worth strategically. He dies in 1842, respected, but not wealthy, while his invention continues spreading across every military on Earth. What he couldn't have known was how his obsession would evolve. His shells were just the beginning. The Industrial Revolution takes his idea and weaponizes it at scale. By the 1860s, factories are churning out shrapnel shells by the thousands. Artillery pieces grow larger, more accurate, more efficient at delivering fragmented death. Engineers refine the fuse mechanisms, making them more reliable. Metallurgists experiment with different alloys to create fragments that fly farther and hit harder. Each improvement makes the weapon deadlier. Then someone realizes you don't need musket balls inside the shell. You can use the shell casing itself. Score the metal with grooves, pack it with high explosives, and the entire thing becomes the weapon. When it detonates, the casing shatters into jagged fragments, moving faster than sound. These aren't neat spherical projectiles anymore. They're irregular chunks of metal that tumble through the air, creating wounds that doctors struggle to treat. World War I turned shrapnel into an industrial nightmare. Artillery bombardments last for days, sometimes weeks. Millions of shells scream overhead and tear apart in the sky. The Western Front becomes a laboratory for competing methods of ripping human bodies into pieces. High explosive shells, shrapnel shells, gas shells, all of them designed by engineers who never have to see the results of their calculations. Soldiers learn to recognize the different sounds: the whistle of an incoming shell, the specific crack of a shrapnel burst, the moment to throw yourself into the mud and pray. Some shells are duds, landing without exploding, but you never know which ones until it's too late. The lucky ones die instantly. The unlucky ones lie in no man's land for hours or days, perforated by metal fragments, screaming until their voices give out. Military doctors develop new specialties treating shrapnel wounds. They learn to probe for fragments buried deep in muscle and bone. They perfect amputations because limbs shredded by high-velocity metal can't be saved. Field hospitals fill with men who look relatively intact until you see the hundreds of small puncture wounds covering their bodies. Internal bleeding, organ damage, infections from metal fragments carrying dirt and uniform fabric into the wounds. The fragments are too small to remove in many cases. Soldiers survive with dozens of metal pieces still embedded in their flesh. Some fragments migrate through the body over years, working their way toward the surface. Others stay buried forever, occasionally setting off metal detectors decades later. Men carry the physical evidence of industrial warfare inside them for the rest of their lives. Between the wars, nothing stops. Engineers keep improving. The Germans develop time fuses that can be set with precision. The British experiment with proximity, fuses that detonate automatically when they sense a target nearby. The Americans mass-produce millions of shells, each one a triumph of manufacturing efficiency and applied physics. Nobody questions whether they should. The only question is how to make them better. World War II scales everything up again. Strategic bombing campaigns drop hundreds of thousands of tons of explosives on cities. Anti-aircraft shells fill the sky with fragments, trying to shred bomber crews before they can release their payloads. The fragments that miss their targets fall back to Earth, punching through roofs and skulls with equal indifference. Entire cities learn to recognize the sound of shrapnel. Raining down after an air raid, the technology spreads everywhere. Every military conflict after 1945 involves weapons descended from shrapnel's original design. Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. Shells get smarter, more targeted, more efficient. Cluster munitions scatter hundreds of submunitions across wide areas, each one fragmenting into dozens of pieces. Improvised explosive devices packed with nails and ball bearings create the same effect using different delivery methods. Modern warfare is cleaner from a distance. Precision-guided munitions hit specific buildings. Drones eliminate specific people. But when those weapons detonate, the mechanism is still the same. High explosives accelerate metal fragments to supersonic speeds. Physics hasn't changed. Human bodies still tear apart when hit by high-velocity projectiles. Henry Shrapnel wanted to make artillery more effective. He succeeded beyond any rational measure. His name became a common word because his invention became so ubiquitous that people needed a term for what it created. We don't say fragments from explosive devices because that's too clinical. We say shrapnel because everyone knows what it means. Walk through any modern conflict zone and you'll see the evidence. Buildings pockmarked with fragment impacts. Walls scarred by thousands of small punctures. Vehicles shredded into metal lace. The signature of explosives designed to maximize the number of projectiles per detonation. Shrapnel didn't invent violence, but he industrialized a specific form of it so effectively that it became standard. The question nobody asked him was whether humanity needed a better way to kill people at range. He assumed the answer was yes, because he was a military officer in an age of empire. His invention worked exactly as designed. The consequences were predictable. We're still living with them. The technology outlives its inventor by centuries. Shrapnel dies in 1842, celebrated and decorated, never questioning whether his contribution made the world better or just bloodier. His invention keeps evolving without him. Engineers make the fragments more uniform, the detonation more reliable, the spread patterns more predictable. Each improvement means more efficient killing. By the late 1800s, medical journals fill with detailed descriptions of shrapnel injuries. Doctors develop specialized techniques for treating them. They learn to probe for fragments without causing more damage, though they often fail. They discover that some fragments are better left inside the body than extracted. Removal surgery sometimes kills patients who would have survived with the metal still embedded. Medicine adapts to what warfare creates. World War I proves the concept at industrial scale. Artillery causes 70% of all casualties. Most of those casualties result from fragments, not direct hits. A single well-placed shell can disable dozens of men. The math is brutally simple. More fragments per shell equals more casualties per detonation. Commanders order millions of rounds because the equation works. Soldiers develop a specific kind of dread for artillery. You can't see it coming. You can't fight back. You hear the whistle. Then the world explodes. If you're lucky, the fragments miss. If you're unlucky, they don't. There's no middle ground. The randomness drives men insane faster than any other aspect of trench warfare. At least with a rifle, you can see who's shooting at you. The fragments don't discriminate. They punch through officers and enlisted men equally. A piece of metal doesn't care about rank or nationality or whether you were drafted or volunteered. It just follows physics. High-velocity projectiles transfer energy into whatever they hit. Human tissue absorbs that energy catastrophically. Between the wars, nobody dismantles the factories. They retool for peacetime production, ready to switch back when needed. The knowledge doesn't disappear. Engineers who designed better shells take jobs in civilian industry, bringing their expertise with them. The technology becomes infrastructure. When the next war starts, production ramps up immediately. World War II multiplies everything again. Shells get bigger, more powerful, more numerous. The industrial capacity that produces cars and refrigerators pivots to producing ordnance. American factories alone manufacture over 40 million artillery shells. Each one contains hundreds of fragments. The math stops meaning anything at that scale. Numbers become abstract, but each shell still works the same way shrapnel's original design worked. Cities learn what it means to be on the receiving end. London during the Blitz, Dresden during the firebombing, Tokyo under incendiary attack. The civilians who survive describe the sound of fragments hitting buildings, cars, people. It's different from bullets. Fragments tumble through the air irregularly. They hit at odd angles. They ricochet unpredictably. A fragment that misses you might bounce off a wall and hit someone behind you. After 1945, the technology spreads everywhere. Former colonies gain independence and arm themselves. Proxy wars erupt across continents. Every conflict involves explosives that fragment. The specific designs vary, but the principle stays constant. Accelerate metal pieces to lethal speeds and scatter them across an area. Simple physics applied efficiently. Modern militaries refine the concept endlessly. Computer simulations optimize fragment patterns. Engineers test different shapes to maximize aerodynamic efficiency. Metallurgists develop alloys that fragment more consistently. The goal never changes. More casualties per weapon. Progress means better killing. Humanitarian organizations try to ban certain types. Cluster munitions get restricted by international treaty. Landmines face similar pressure. But conventional artillery shells remain legal. They're too fundamental to modern warfare. Every military depends on them. Banning them would require reimagining how wars are fought, and nobody wants to do that. The fragments keep falling. Ukraine, Gaza, Yemen, Sudan. Different conflicts, same mechanism. Explosives detonate, metal accelerates, bodies break. The technology shrapnel pioneered works identically everywhere. Physics is universal. Doctors in war zones still extract fragments from patients. The techniques have improved since the 1800s, but the injuries haven't changed. Metal in flesh causes the same problems now that it caused 2 centuries ago. Infection, bleeding, organ damage. Modern antibiotics help, but they can't reverse tissue destruction. A fragment that severs an artery kills you just as dead in 2024 as it would have in 1824. Nobody names weapons after their inventors anymore. It's considered poor taste. But we still use shrapnel's name because we need a word for what his invention creates. The fragments are everywhere. In conflict zones, in museums, still embedded in the bodies of veterans who survived wars decades ago. The evidence doesn't disappear. Henry Shrapnel solved a problem: how to make artillery more lethal. He succeeded completely. The solution worked so well that it became permanent. 200 years later, we're still using variations of his design, still accelerating metal fragments to supersonic speeds, still counting casualties in the thousands per conflict. His invention didn't end with him. It became infrastructure. That's what success looks like in weapons design. You create something so effective that it becomes impossible to imagine warfare without it. The weapon outlasted its creator's wildest projections. Shrapnel's spherical case shot evolved into artillery shells, cluster bombs, improvised explosives, anti-personnel mines, each generation more efficient than the last. The fragments keep falling in every war zone on Earth, following the same physics he calculated in his quarters 2 centuries ago. We named the debris after him because his solution was so complete we couldn't imagine destruction without it.